Hey there! Welcome to From the Inside of My Book Fort. Today I'm going to read the opening passage from a novel by James Anderson, The Never Open Desert Diner. A red sun was balanced on the horizon when I arrived at the well-known desert diner. Sunrise shadows were draped around its corners. A full white moon was still visible in the dawn sky. I parked my tractor-trailer rig along the outer perimeter of the gravel parking lot. The closed sign hung on the front door. To the left of the door, as if in mourning for Superman, stood a black metal and glass phone booth. Inside was a real phone with a rotary dial that clicked out the 10 white numbers. Unlike the phone in the movies, this one worked, if you had enough nickels. Curiosity usually wasn't a problem for me. I treated it like a sleeping junkyard dog. As a general rule, I didn't hop the fence. Jagged scars on my backside reminded me of the few times I had violated that rule. Just because you can't see the dog doesn't mean it isn't out there. Sure, I look through the fence once in a while. What I see and think, I keep to myself. On that Monday morning in late May, I was dangerously close to the fence. Walt Butterfield, the diner's owner, was a junkyard Unitarian. He was a congregation of one and his own guard dog. His junkyard was the well-known desert diner, and he didn't bark or growl before he tore your throat out. I liked him, and his junkyard. The place was kind of an odd shrine. Over the years, the diner had become a regular rest stop for me, as well as a source of fascination and idle speculation. It was always my first stop, even when I had nothing to deliver. Sometimes it was my last stop, too. Out of habit, I tried the front door. It was locked, as usual. This was Walt's face to the world. He slept in what had been a small storage room attached to the kitchen. Behind the diner, across a wide alleyway of sand and flagstone, was a 50 by 100-foot galvanized steel World War II Quonset hut. This was where Walt really lived, alone with his motorcycles and tools and grease and canyons of crated parts that reached to the ceiling. Walt's motorcycle collection totaled 9 of the finest and rarest beasts ever to have graced the roadways of America and Europe. Among them was his first, a 1948 Vincent Black Shadow. It was the same motorcycle he was riding, his new Korean war bride hugging his thin waist, the day he first rode onto the gravel of what was then called the Oasis Cafe. He was 20 years old. She was 16 and spoke no English. They bought the place a year later in 1953. Walt kept the diner, like everything else in his life, in pristine shape. I peered through the glass door at the lime green vinyl seats of the 6 booths and 12 stools. The platoon of glass salt and pepper shakers stood at attention. The trim along the edge of the counter shined its perpetual chrome smile back at me. The brown and ivory linoleum tiles reflected their usual wax and polish. A 1948 Wurlitzer jukebox hunkered against the far wall. Behind the counter, the same order ticket as always hung lifeless from a wire above the stainless steel kitchen pass-through. As far as I knew, it was the final ticket from the last meal prepared for a paying guest, probably sometime in the autumn of 1987. The diner and I contemplated each other. Like Walt himself, it had a long and colorful past. US 191 is the main highway north and south out of Price, Utah. North led to Salt Lake City. Due south took you to Green River and eventually Moab. The turnoff for State Road 117 is about 20 miles from the city limits of Price. 10 miles east, down 117 on the left, surrounded by miles of flat, rugged nothing, you came upon the well-known desert diner. From 1955 to 1987, the diner appeared in dozens of B movies. They were the desert horror thriller movies, the desert biker mayhem movies, the movies where someone, usually an attractive young woman, drove across the desert alone and some bad shit happened. Once in a while, it's possible to catch one of these low-budget gems on cable. I always cheered when the diner filled the screen. My personal favorites involved atomic monsters or aliens terrorizing small-town desert locals. The locals eventually accomplished with little more than a car battery, a couple of Winchester rifles, and a visiting college professor who had a crazy theory, and a wild, beautiful daughter. The diner was originally built in 1929. Its pale gravel driveway, antique glass bubble gas pumps, white adobe walls, and green trim made it seem familiar, almost like a home you had known all your life but never visited. Even the most hardened, sun-struck driver slowed down and smiled. Two billboards, one facing 191 South and another facing 191 North, advertised the diner to traffic. Homemade pie, cool drinks, just ahead. The billboards were aged and faded, through the years, so many people had stopped to find the diner closed that one irate motorist spray-painted the North Bend billboard to read, "The Never Open Desert Diner."